Hey, I'm finally getting better. What's up? It's the Culture Detective here investigating your favorite albums. And I am running out of time. I just got back home and I'm going to quickly do an album review on the new Brockhampton albums, The Family and TM. So, best boy band since One Direction, hip hop group Brockhampton is back with their last two albums in their entire discography, at least as far as we know. The Family and TM. Now, Brockhampton has been making music for over a decade now, and I've been following them since they have released their debut album. Their first three albums, the Saturation Trilogy, are amazing. Three very fun, creative, quirky rap albums that have personal moments, but also very funny, hilarious, and imaginative hip hop moments. Truly three of the most well made rap projects of the last decade. After that, we have the departure of one of the most important members of the band, Amir Van, because of the harassment allegations, the abuse allegations, I believe. But anyways, after that conundrum, we have the album Iridescence in 2018, which is also not bad, followed with Ginger in 2019, where the band goes for a more personal and introspective sound, which came off fantastic. A couple years later in 2021, last year, they released Roadrunner, New Light, New Machine, which is also an album that I enjoyed, has some bangers here and there. And after that, shortly, Kevin Abstract, the leader of the band, has announced that the band is splitting. It's breaking. It's coming to a close, and that's gonna accompany with two albums, The Family and TM. So here we go. Both albums are released back to back, November 17th and then 18th, I believe. And these are probably going to be the last two albums they're ever going to release. And from here on out, they're just going to start going solo. So yeah, let's first talk about The Family. This album is basically a Kevin Abstract solo project. It's 35 minutes long, yet it has 17 freaking tracks. Some of the tracks on this album don't even make past 2 minutes, and a lot of them feel really short and half-baked, unfortunately. And because Kevin Abstract mostly dominates this album doesn't have that group energy that a lot of Brockhampton albums have. So we just ended up having something kind of dry. I like the album cover, but that's pretty much the only exciting part about this album. The album opener, Take It Back, is a Kanye-esque album opener with chipmunk soul. Lyrically, Kevin Abstract goes down a trip of memory lane on, when he started the boy band, why he started the band, the California dream, how Tyler the Creator inspired him. And even though I appreciate what Kevin Abstract says on this track and pretty much every single other track here, the instrumentals are just so dry and one note, unfortunately. The track RZA is a boom bap track with some chipmunk soul. Once again, the instrumentals are similarly dry. And the track Gold Teeth has the pitched, muffled, spiritual vocals and the chomping drums, which are kind of nice. And then the lyrics once again reminiscence the past, especially the days when Kevin Abstract was still in the other boy band Corpus Christi. But yeah, again, it just doesn't have the energy that Brockhampton used to have anymore. It just feels kind of hollow. I do enjoy the next two tracks, however. The track Big Pussy starts off with a really weird, random, jazzy improv intro, which is very fun and came out of nowhere. And then afterwards transitions into a dry, dirty, shouty banger. On this track, Kevin Abstract's flows are really tight and really energetic, and I really like the introduction of the relaxing guitars. And the track All That reflects on the past again. Kevin Abstract talks about how everything went left after he didn't show up for the Brit Awards in 2019, and how after Amir left, he and Dom kept fighting. I like the sad, soulful guitars. I like the sentiment of the track. It's portrayed really well. After that, we have one track after another that feel like demo tracks. The track Back from the Road has these pitched guitars and some vocal bits here and there. It's really one note. The track Basement is another half-baked track with a beat and some quirky rap performances, but that's pretty much it. And the track Southside is just forgettable on all fronts. The beat, the performance, everything is just unfortunately very forgettable. And then we move on to Good Time, where Kevin Abstract tries a bit of a Igor era Tyler the Creator, because the track kind of sounds like A Boy is a Gun, with the dreamy, relaxing soul group vocals, which I do kind of like, though it is a little derivative. The track 37th has the pitched background vocals, and on this track lyrically, Kevin Abstract deals with his guilt and shame in a personal way. The track Boy Band is another jumpy boom bap track, and Any Way You Want Me is kind of a weird detour on this track list because essentially we're getting an emo-ish indie rock track with some pretty mid vocals and reverby guitars, which are overall kind of mediocre. And then we have the title track. He starts off the track like he's drinking, he's drinking and writing this track at the same time, sort of like how Kendrick Lamar wrote You into Pimp a Butterfly. And on this track, he talks about the tension between the group members, the competition that sort of contributed to the breaking up of the band. And the track Prayer is kind of like a track off of God is King by Kanye. It's kind of mild. My American Life is another emo-ish rustic guitar song, and then we have the ending with the slow jamming instrumentals where for one last time Kevin Abstract reminiscence the past. He describes the good old times of early Brockhampton days, how he would walk out of his room and he would see different members, and it does hit really hard. It does remind me of how, like, after I finished secondary school, how I could never let go of secondary school and how I would write poem after poem after poem after poem, song after song after song, story after story after story, and just simply rant after rant after rant about my secondary school life and how I would just never let it go. And this song sort of just reminds me of that phase. So I do understand the sentiment a lot. So that's it. And the album essentially ends off with Brockhampton. The title of the track is Brockhampton, and it is essentially 4.5 minutes of Kevin Abstract saying farewell to every single member of the band, on top of a really simple, forgettable drumless loop. So that's pretty much the album. I understand the sentiment of the album, but really it is a very underwhelming ending. Instrumentally, structure-wise, a lot of the tracks here are really half-baked. Kind of feeling a 6 out of 10 for the album. Yeah, again, I understand the sentiment, I understand the emotions behind it, but really it's just a really sad ending, honestly. But what's even sadder is the following album, TM. This album is even sadder than The Family because on The Family, the lyrical content and the meaning behind the album is sad. But TM, in and of itself, is really freaking sad because this album is basically Brockhampton's dying breath. At the very, very, very last moments of Brockhampton's existence, they still tried their best to squeeze out the best bangers and catchy tunes and jams, but they just can't do it anymore. TM sounds like a hollow shell of what Brockhampton was. Again, they tried to do bangers, but they just don't have the same energy anymore. A bulk of this album is led by Matt Champion. Of course, Kevin Abstract is on this album as well, and a lot of other members like Dom and Joba just don't appear all that much on the album. In fact, Merlin Woods, I think he only showed up on 1 or 2 of the tracks, making him barely existent on this album. The album Opener Fmg is a dry, quirky banger with a tight trap beat, which is very forgettable, and Animal is a run-of-the-mill auto-tune pop song with a really mild beat. It's really drab. Track Listerine, I'm happy we get to hear more of Dom on this track, on top of this really thick auto-tune and this messy, faint instrumental. New Shoes is a cool little trap banger with some eerie guitars and some energetic performances by Merlin Woods. But again, there's something so lifeless about the track. It just does not reach the heights that Brockhampton used to be able to reach. Not even close. However, I do enjoy the next two tracks. Keep It Southern has an interesting dance beat. I like the bittersweet pianos and the overblown synths. And the track Man on the Moon is really fun. It is a driving, cutesy, endearing, sweet pop tune with lyrical references to Man on the Moon, Kid Cudi. But yeah, again, the rest of the album is just really flat. Better Things is a starry, sweet psychedelic ballad, and the track Crucify Me pretty much sounds similar, except it's a lot slower. Duct Tape sees the band doing a little modern Kanye with the cold, subtle beat and the auto tune. And then Always Something is a really mediocre, basic trap pop song. And the album ends off with Goodbye. And it is very much a goodbye to the fans and also the other members of the band, but it is written off like a love song with a sequenced beat slapped on top, some reverby washed out pianos, and some really weak falsettos. It's so weak. This track and this album is the very definition of ending with a whimper instead of ending with a bang. So yeah, and it's not like I expect the band to end off in a bang anyways. It does sound like they're already reached a point where they're just too tired to make any exciting new material. Even if they don't break up, they would have to at least go on a bit of a hiatus after this record. But yeah, essentially there's that. It is a really underwhelming ending, even more so than The Family. And unfortunately, I will have to admit that this is the worst Brockhampton album so far. And I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. So yeah, have you listened to these two albums from Brockhampton? Comments below, let me know, and subscribe if you want more. And thanks for watching. I will be reviewing the new Quedeca, Wise Blood, Nas, and Richard Dawson, and maybe MGMT very soon.